Hi there, welcome to Joshi'ing Around, a podcast in which I will show one friend of mine who knows nothing about Joshi Pro Wrestling one Joshi match, and we will talk about their thoughts and their feelings, their first impressions and their reactions. Then I will try and explain the history of the match to them and what makes it so special to me personally. My name is Tim Hunter and welcome to the show. Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of Joshi'ing Around. I got a special guest with me today. It's actually the first guest I've ever met in real life before as well. We've met in Japan this year and it was a good time. This is Trish from the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Probably the best podcast out there at what they do. Hi Trish.
Hi. Thank you for the compliment that I can never accept being British, but no, thank you. We did. We had it's okay. We had a great time in Tokyo. I remember you enjoying a roller coaster, even though you were very sick.
Yeah, it's a good roller coaster, right? What's it called? The Dolphin? Thunder Dolphin?
Thunder Dolphin, yeah, surprisingly good. I think it was better than we thought it was going to be, for sure.
Yeah, I didn't have any expectations actually going in. But yeah, it's going wild. We gotta do it again next year.
We do. It has to be a return visit. Take as many people as possible. If you see us in Japan, you are set up to be victims of the Thunder Dolphin.
So, did you want to plug your things first? Did you want to plug any social media or your podcast? I already kind of introduced, but...
No, you mean my terrible plugging of anything, because I am really bad at this. What we should plug is we have the Social Suplex Newsletter, which you are a major part of, and with us. And, that comes out every 2 weeks. New edition just come out now, covering All Star Grand Queendom, as we're going to speak about. So if you want the written version of everything that we're going to talk, that should be where you go, over at socialsuplex.com. There you go.
The newsletter is awesome. I'm really proud of it.
It should be. You're such a key part of it, and I think we're trying to do something that's completely different and make things more global and just give more space for more writers and creative people and photographers and everything to share their work, on a bi-weekly basis.
Right.
See, I can do the plug things occasionally.
Yeah, it was very good. And it's not just like there's like such a wide variety of things in there, like not just from retro to opinion pieces and like features and like to like the smallest promotions in the world, from like Chile and we've got a show review from South Africa. We've got we're getting news and things from everywhere. I think we're going to try and cover the shows in Singapore and Malaysia at the end of May. There's a French show coming up that we're going to try. So we're trying to give more eyes to as many promotions as possible, because the whole world is just becoming more American-centric, not just in wrestling, really. Right. So the more that we can highlight everywhere else, especially now we're kind of in this kind of mini Cold War, the better. And yeah, we're trying to buck a trend, aren't we, really, in this? But I think it's really cool. Yeah. But even if if anyone has news from anywhere in the world, wherever you are, wherever you're watching, any show that you're watching, anyone you see that you think is interesting, please let us know, because the more kind of information we get out of that, the more that we can put into this, and hopefully it helps to grow, not just our newsletter, but knowledge of some of these promotions and places, and outside of the US especially. Oh, absolutely, and it's very important to do that, in my opinion, like to go against what everyone else does, because there's always people like who are looking for this kind of coverage more than like if someone wants to know more about like the WWE or whatever, they can find that everywhere, right?
So we can still cover WWE, as an extent, and we can put things in there that other people might not want to put in, or things that we hear. But it's the niche bits. It's the promotions that, you look at some of these promotions that don't get coverage, and they're drawing, way more than not to feel like I'm picking on AEW when I say this, but maybe on AEW do every week. It's like, and some of these big shows are drawing, you're looking at some of these promotions that are like the third, fourth, if you compare with like CMLL, or you're looking at some of these promotions like third, fourth, fifth, sixth biggest in the world, and we don't talk about them enough. So, and you've seen so much with this Stardom show, and I know there's been some criticism of that in some circles, and it's been kind of debated and pushed back upon. But it's like, this is the biggest women's wrestling show since at least 2000.
Right.
It is, it will be one of the biggest shows of this year, regardless of men, women. So, it deserves, and it's, it's such a pivotal moment in the company that it deserves as much coverage as possible. And, we looked at it for our podcast. And neither of us are anywhere close to experts when it comes to Stardom. I'm still really learning at this part of the world, and that's kind of enjoyable because I always quite like getting into something new. But that's why speaking to someone like you or our friend Kazo or anyone else like that, it's really useful because you can learn so much from that, and it's just tapping in. And that's what we're doing. We're just trying to tap into as much of that expertise that's kind of out there as possible, really.
Yeah, it's awesome. Right, you already mentioned like it's probably an interesting topic to get into, like what was the last Joshi show that was this big, but it's really hard to actually figure it out because like the numbers for like the late 90s or like early 2000s, like these promotions, the numbers are very like murky,
they're very much the numbers that are put on paper that probably don't reflect that much in how many people were kind of there.
Right.
The MLW and Dragon Gates of the 90s and 2000s.
Exactly right.
Yeah. It's very, very difficult. So that's why we say kind of from at least 2000. It could be, this could be even far greater in terms of attendance than that, but we just kind of can't be 100% sure, which is difficult. But what is true is that it is, a huge crowd. Biggest crowd in the promotion's history, and just an incredible number considering how many people were kind of predicting the kind of not the end, but like a down period for Stardom following the departure of Savarigo last year.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like the numbers when All Japan Women was like on their downswing towards like 1995, 90, around that time, they were at this level, I guess, like 7.5. 8.5 was like their lower numbers before they died. So there's an argument to be made that it goes back to like 95, which would be 3 decades, that this was the most successful Joshi show in 3 decades, basically. So that's a really giant achievement, I think.
Absolutely.
I think the show just deserves more coverage. Like, I'm not going to call like anyone out or anything, but it's kind of been disappointing, like in the general wrestling landscape. Like,
and it's interesting because I think a lot of the fan feedback has been pretty strong. I think we've seen quite a lot of engagement, with that show in particular, kind of on a similar level to what you see for kind of some of the big New Japan shows, far higher than I've seen for any other Stardom show in the recent history. So, yeah, it is what it is at this point. That's why we've got to try and attempt to change things a little bit because. Yep. That's where we're at. But yeah, it would be nice if there'd been more engagement on it. I think more people should who are involved in that field should watch it, should try and understand, the importance of the moment and look at, the success of some of these wrestlers in terms of not just in ring ability, but in terms of drawing power as well, in the same way that you would with some of the men's promotions, because it's not too dissimilar, to New Japan in a lot of aspects, which gets a lot more coverage. Okay, you have your Tokyo Dome show, but outside of that, this is a bigger crowd than any of the shows so far this year for New Japan. So yeah, it's just one of those things. But let's see what we can do, and this will be interesting because I am still a relative novice, so you can laugh at me for anything that might mess up.
No. I should real quick, like for the podcast listeners, maybe I should be open here that I've been a bit sick the last 5 days, especially my throat has not been good. So if I'm gonna lose my voice at some point or at any points during the podcast, I'm sorry for that. I'm gonna have to drink a little bit more between the parts, but I think it's gonna work out. I hope it's gonna work out. But yeah,
Not like a curse, considering you were sick when we were in Tokyo as well. I
it's
think
true.
I've got
Yeah,
a few.
it's kind of weird. Like this past year has been really rough. For some reason, I've been like my throat has constantly been going away. I don't know what's causing it, but
We'll go through it. We'll go.
yeah. And as you mentioned, like the general stardom curve has been going like I've listening to someone else lately who said like that NOAH is actually the most successful Korakuen promotion this year.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Which is true, yeah.
It's
I looked
crazy.
I looked at the Korakuen numbers after that just to figure it out, and I thought it was surprising like how well Stardom has done there too. Like I think they're pretty clearly the number 2 behind NOAH, and they've had higher peaks than NOAH. They've just also had like some shows that were like barely above 1,000. So
Yeah, it's just when it's Korakuen, it's always around consistency.
Right.
And I think for both, really, it's a success story. You know, for NOAH, you've got shows that are doing kind of a third more than what they were last year. Even their Monday night shows. Yeah, the Monday night with the tag with Kenta and Keno versus Ozawa and Endo. And that went from like the late 900s last year up to 1,400 this year. It's like these are huge increases in the space of a year. So it just means that you've hit on something that's right. And for NOAH, it was, Ozawa has been a revelation. The return of Kenta has worked for them. And with Stardom, this main event has really driven forward their kind of their revenue and their gates this year. That story has been pivotal to, I think, to their early success when you look at the numbers.
Right. Yeah, and I was just kind of surprised, like how much, like, for example, if you take the average numbers for New Japan, they do like an average of 12.95 this year in Korakuen, and Stardom does an average of 14.07. So that's a pretty big difference actually for
I think
Stardom
there's a few more.
New Japan.
There's a few more New Japan shows, but it shows you, if they're competitive with New Japan numbers, then that's just like that's a massively different position from where they've been in the past for sure.
I think they've also done like the highest numbers. It's true, like New Japan has these shows with like the Fantastic Mania shows. I think didn't do very well. They were like in the 800s or 900s, and they have like some of these midweek shows that don't do well. That obviously bogs down the average number. But yeah, Stardom has, I think, until the Maker retirement, had the highest number this year too, or post-pandemic, I guess, actually the highest.
Yeah, that Maiko number is that's a crazy number. That would have been a warm building, that 1,660. But yeah, no, it's Stardom. Is a story of growth and maybe unexpected growth in a case, especially in this last year. And they're competing with New Japan. There were NOAH's numbers on a resurgence, who were previously a much bigger company as well. And it's interesting because if you look at like last year, I think there was people that thought that Stardom had peaked, that they came out of the pandemic really strong, and then the numbers started to drop a little, and then they've seen such a reversal this year. Would you put that all on Okada becoming booker there?
I would say it's a big part of it for sure. I feel like they made a lot of right decisions, I guess. With Stardom, I've always been kind of shying away from putting major stock on the booking itself, because I think like the talent depth of their roster is like so deep that they're always gonna be like have a certain level of popularity, I think, because they have just so many popular and great wrestlers on the roster in general. But I think the booking really kind of went to hell towards the end of Rossi's stint, towards the end of 2023. So that was probably a big part of why, like, the roster fell apart, like injury-wise, and the booking wasn't great either. So the numbers really were going down at that point. And the resurgence it has seen since Okada came in and like pushed the right people, pushed people that the fans always wanted to see pushed, like Starlight Kid and Azumi and Tam Nakano and Sayaka Mitani. That is obviously a big positive for the company, I'm sure.
And I think it's that depth of the roster that makes people still bullish about, even though you're losing Tam and Mayu, and Micah's going to be on the shelf for a serious amount of time. We're having Tommy John surgery. I think that's why there's still that positivity around, this company can grow, because it is feeling kind of very similar to that kind of New Japan thing in the mid 2010s, where okay, you're going to lose this person, but look what you've got kind of in the background that can step up.
Right, yeah. And it's also like just the integration of the younger rookies, the newer people on the roster. They're doing such a fantastic job of like making them familiar with the audience immediately. Like they find a good spot on the card usually like really quickly, and people get behind them really, really quickly. Like when I like compare that to like the Young Lion system in New Japan, for example, just watching them wrestle, I watched like both Dontaku shows, like the dark matches with the Young Lions, and they're looking like I think they're looking really interesting, but it's like so tough to really gather anything really from their personalities. Or like I obviously that's the point of it, obviously, but sorry.
It's a system that needs to change. I think they should be looking at, Bushiroad should be looking at STARDOM and thinking, they've talked about changes to the young line system. Tanahashi's talked about it as well as Kadani. And it needs speeding up. The idea of doing these very long excursions as well, I don't think, other than like maybe a brief stint in CML, I don't think there's huge benefit to that these days. I understand the idea of kind of wanting to experience different culture, different challenges, helps them mature. But yeah, you can see more value at the current time with the way things are in getting your rookies kind of quickly onto the main roster and then getting them working in, night in, night out with, some of the best talent in the world, and how much getting those reps compared to, going to, if you go on, imagine you go on excursion to like an American TV company. So like Inamura from NOAH's gone to, and he doesn't need an excursion, let's be clear. But he goes across to, NXT and he's working once a week, if he's lucky. So yeah, I don't see as much value in doing that than there is in terms of working with, your more experienced people in STARDOM every single week. And that's the same for New Japan. What you're going to learn if you come to the UK and you come to, Rev Pro and you're working with people who are mainly just come out of training school, or some older vets, or you can get on the road and maybe in like, you might be, it might be in 8-man tags, but you can work with Shingo every night, or you can work with Goto every night, potentially, right. Or you work with Zack Sabre Jr. It's like, you're going to get more out of that. And I think the systems need to be updated to kind of match the position that kind of the global look of wrestling is right now. So yeah, it would make sense. And I think STARDOM have probably been ahead of the pack in that regard. And we're seeing it a little bit with Noah Ozawa as well.
Right. I've never even like known about Ozawa really until he returned, and that like was immediately pushed to like the main event against Kiyomiya, and that whole feud was very entertaining, I thought. But like I wasn't even aware of him before that. So
no, he was here for a little bit.
Expert on Noah or anything.
That's fair. He was here for a little bit before on his excursion, so we kind of got an idea of him. But he wasn't the Ozawa that you see now in that regard. Okay. But he's an interesting one. It probably doesn't help Kiyomiya. I think he's had a difficult few years in terms of being the guy they want to set up, but their presentation of him and that doesn't kind of match what you want to see. And then you have this guy coming back who's doing the whole anti-authority thing. He's seen as cool, which is the buzzword at the moment, but literally a guy, I go back to the guy at Korakuen who shouted at him, "You're so cool," at the end of his defense against Masaki Kitamiya, and you just think, yeah, you are, and you're resonating. And it's the same way like Naito did in the 2010s. It's that sort of thing. When you tap into that, it's like an instant buzz, especially for younger fans. So yeah, but that's an idea of just fastening up that system, and just getting them. It's time now. You've had this static kind of top in so many of these companies, and so many people, we've not seen many retirements. We are now, but we had like post-COVID because everyone waited around. So everything's felt like it's been completely stopped for so many years that you now have to speed everything back up to catch back up. And the companies that are doing that and recognizing that quickest are the ones that are currently the most successful.
Right. And have you seen yesterday's show? I guess we're dating the podcast at this point, but it doesn't really matter to me. The
The
NOAH show
NOAH show?
yesterday.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That reaction after the main event for Kiyomiya was oof.
Yeah, and
That
you
was
could feel
tough.
it coming. I think you could feel it coming
Yeah.
if because not just because of Ozawa. I think you can feel it for Kiyomiya as well. Is that it's kind of like the Shota Umino thing in New Japan too.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly. That's what I
they
was gonna
feel
say.
they feel exactly the same. Where it's just it's not the right time. It's not the right time to go back to him. And they don't want that because we've just gone to, especially with Noah, because you've just gone to something different that feels fresh. And going back to Kiyomiya right now in his current, in the same character, same feeling, it doesn't feel fresh. And probably should have spotted that one when they set up the match with Marufuji and didn't, which is a bit weird. Yeah. But it's like, I don't know if it works. And maybe he needs an excursion or something, like Inamura's just been on, who I never thought needed one. And you can bring Inamura back and push him as a baby face. But yeah, it's a difficult one. When you've been in one spot for too long, it becomes hard to kind of deal when you start getting reactions line up.
And it's kind of crazy that they're just seemingly not recognizing it, because I was there at like the January 1st show at Sumo Hall, and Kiyomiya was not popular in that show at all. Like, they should have known that if they put him against Ozawa again, it's going to be the same thing. But it
feels like it's been going on for years. It just feels like it. Like, I feel like this has been going on. I felt like this in like 21. I was thinking about the M1 in 21, and you could tell there, like they're pushing this guy higher than what the fans want him to be pushed right now. And that's not to say he's not a fantastic in-ring talent, because he is. But it was like you could feel it. You knew then, and then it's consistently happened over and over and over. And when he had the belt last year, they were struggling. And they've tried everything. They do the Budokan and Ryogoku shows, and it's just not all the things you normally do, for in Japan to kind of get a babyface over, and it's just not there. So yeah, he could do a reprieve, do something different. I actually was hoping he'd do the kind of tag run when they had the tag title match last month, and it's they've gone back to this and it's
not gonna work.
No, you can't. You keep doing the same things, you'll keep getting the same results. So, but we'll see. Anyway, we've moved right into it. This is Noah. This is your Noah joshing around podcast
it's
now.
Kind of weird, yeah. Maybe we can wrap it around with like the Ozawa popularity. It's kind of the exact same character as Saya Kamitani, actually. It's very similar, I'd say. Like, just I
think they can both have something kind of magnetic,
Right.
There is a magnetism to them as as wrestlers, as personas that you're not seeing so very much elsewhere.
Right. Yeah. With the slight difference that Kamitani's opponent at least was very popular as well.
Yeah, they actually care about Tam in a way they don't. Sorry, Koto fans. The way they don't about Koto.
Yeah, it's true. It's but moving away from Noah. Actually, before I wanted to get into the show, I wanted to breach the topic about general just loss of a wrestler, since we have a similar situation in New Japan right now with Tetsuya Naito, of course, who I happen to know as one of your favorites. So
how would you know that, Tim?
I don't know. I'm a good guesser, I guess.
Yeah, the whole world figured that out on the messages I got when that announcement was made.
Yeah, but I just wanted to ask you how you were dealing with that whole situation. If it was how was it really emotional for you? Was it are you fine? Did it really hit yet? Even because full clarity, it was literally today was Naito's last date in New Japan on the Dontaku night too. So how are you feeling about it right now?
It's such a funny one, because when that news hit, I was kind of surprised at first, and then I realized that the signs have been there and we kind of ignored them and blown them off because Naito's always whining, quite frankly, in Tokyo sports. But we should have looked closer into it. But I don't think it really hit me until the Hiroshima, the Wrestling Red Zone show, and it was him and Hiromu tagging, and he, against Ishii and Taichi, and just the emotion involved in that match and the efforts that the other guys were putting in, especially Hiromu, who was just incredible. And you could feel how much it meant to him. And then when they got to the end and Naito's just laid out on the mat crying and Hiromu's crying and he's beating the mat with his fists and in frustration, and just seeing that, because it reminds me that, prior to Wrestle Kingdom, we've never, and maybe the final World Tag League last year, we've never really seen that sort of emotion from Naito. The whole gimmick is, this guy feels the most, but we never see it. He pretends he doesn't. So then to actually see it kind of out in the open was like, especially like that for that Red Zone show, I think that really made me feel something. And it's one of them. I look at it twofold. I always look at, and the thing is like his career's not over. He's going to wrestle again. Is he going to wrestle again at the level that he did, 4 or 5 years ago? Probably not. But we're still going to see him again. I think that's probably the big difference. Obviously, I'm sure we'll see Tam, but we won't see now in the ring. But it's one of those things where I'm kind of really grateful as well, because for me, that character has been, my favorite journey in wrestling and thing I've experienced for all the years that I've watched. I watched this guy come out in, a Rev Pro show in London in 2015, and I was just like fascinated by him, like in a way that I wasn't when I saw him on, Wrestle Kingdoms before that or anything else. And I was like, he just has an energy. And then you start to get invested, and then everything else comes on, the LIJ group and how they interact with each other, and the fans and the people you meet and the stupid merch you buy and the cats and everything else. But it's, and then you just get so invested in this story, and it becomes, something that, you look forward to on a weekly, monthly basis. And, life's hard. So those sort of things are so important, to find things that you can invest your time in that feel worthwhile, that give you those moments of kind of, let's be frank, elation. I remember when he did finally win the IWGP at Wrestle Kingdom 14, and just being so happy that day. And it's so silly in a way when you think about it, because this is a booking decision that makes you happy, but you get so connected with them and their journeys. And I think that's kind of a powerful thing. I think sometimes we talk about wrestling in such a dry way that we lose sight, and I especially, of the most important thing is how it makes you feel. That's why we're invested. Sometimes it's great if I see a great match, it's fantastic, I do enjoy this, I'll recommend it. Did you see this incredible move? Great. But the times when it gets you the most is when it makes you feel. And for Naito, for me, this guy has always made me feel a way in wrestling that I don't really feel so much. There's some that come close now, but more than anyone else, this is a guy that makes me feel. It makes me emotional, makes me invested in a result of a match where normally I just kind of pass it by. And the character and the way that it shields its emotions and that sort of thing, and coming back from kind of the despair and being rejected. I think, from being the chosen one, from the next Great Muta, and then, having to go away and come back, and then that taking off, and especially in Osaka, who completely did a 180 on him. Like, just the whole of that, it's just, and it was so much fun, when he was destroying the belt and throwing it around, and LIJ were like the coolest thing on earth, and it was so much fun. And I look back and I think I want to remember all those kind of the fun things, those fun moments, the times when I've got to see, when I got to see him wrestle Kota Ibushi in MSG, and when I got to see a Champions Roll Call in Otto Gymnasium last year. It's things like that. I look back and I want to think about those moments and the silly things, when he's messing about with JY, or the great stuff for the stupid promos at World Tag League with Hiromu last year, where we, Intended Error has become like our podcast slogan for someone on Blue Sky, and I absolutely love that. But yeah, the little things like that. And to me, it's a sadness. I think it hits you more when they're not on that program anymore. When you start watching big shows and there is no Naito, I think that's when you kind of feel it far more. But for now, I'm just, I just look back with a fondness and a gratefulness of kind of that character and the investment I had, feeling so worthwhile, and being, just be honest, it's a huge part of my life for the last, decade and a bit. So yeah, that's where I'm going to go. I'm grateful for being able to enjoy that journey. How do you feel in the immediate, Tim, from after All Star Grand Queendom? Because in a way, you kind of knew it was coming for a long time, but you don't really want it to be. But how do you feel now?
Well, honestly, I can say for myself that I'm probably lucky that I'm a person that can totally like chill about those things, because like after all, it's just fake fighting, right? It's just a silly little hobby. It doesn't mean like anything to me. It's like wrestling is just
Tim.
it's just for kids basically
Oh,
who
behave.
who would invest into like any
Oh,
wrestler
mate.
anyway. It's like I'm more mature than that, I think. So I can just
Oh,
like
the thing is when I think about you and I think about this, and I think about when I first met you in Tokyo and you were explaining kind of why you were such a big fan of Tam, and and what that kind of means to you, and the light that was in your voice. And when this happened, that was all I kept coming back to was how much this character and this wrestler has been, how important this person has been to you through all the steps that's going on. And so it must be hard, like when it's 9%, you kind of know it's coming to an end, but you really don't want it to be.
Yeah, no, it was pretty fucking terrible. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh,
It was
mate.
like at first I was like the same. I was pretty happy, honestly. Like just because Tom was happy, you saw her like smiling at the end of the show.
Yeah, it was a beautiful ending.
Sorry, my voice is giving out.
It's okay.
I hope I can last for the whole podcast, but yeah, no, but after a while when it settled in, like I got really sad about it. I can't deny that.
But I think you're allowed to be. I think there is that kind of, it's in a weird way, it's like a mourning period, because this thing that you've enjoyed for so long it's come to an end in some way. And yeah, so for especially the immediacy, I think that's perfectly normal to feel that way. And and it's hard because if you don't have kind of others or characters or stories that you're invested as much in, then it's easy to kind of fall away as well. We see that quite a bit, but yeah, it's
my biggest fear actually right now. Yeah, it is also
I can understand that.
I have this like fear right now that looking back at this like whole match and the whole angle, the whole like finish of the show, I have like this fear that this was the peak for me in some way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have the fear that like wrestling may never be this good for me again.
What I would say on that is, I do think sometimes it might take time, but I feel eventually you will find yourself wrapped up in a different story or a different character. It does happen, but it's like everything in wrestling. It cycles, and initially maybe it won't feel like that. Maybe you'll feel kind of like you're walking kind of in the wilderness sort of thing. But eventually I think you will find something like that again. And I always look at it. It makes me feel really old when I say that. But my favorite thing is always the journeys. And I always think about the wrestlers I've watched from when they were, just coming in, especially in the UK. And I always find that's my, the thing I care about the most. And then when there isn't something like that, or people I get invested in are kind of either kind of stuck, essentially, or not doing much interesting, it can be kind of demoralizing, and you think, I'm not really interested in much right now, and do I need to watch this show, do I need to watch that show? But eventually there's always something that kicks back in and catches you, and it might take some time. That doesn't mean that it's like instantaneous. It might not be a month, it might not be 6 months, it might not be a year, but it does come back around, and it's those special kind of moments and connections that you make that keep us around for as long as most of us have, stop us growing up.
And I gotta say, I didn't watch any wrestling this week until like yesterday. I have then, and I've had a lot of time. Like I wasn't at work Thursday and Friday, and I still like didn't watch anything because I just wasn't interested. I did.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I did watch now. Like I watched the NOAH show. I watched both New Japan shows. I watched the Dynamite. And I also watched the Sengai Girls show. So, and that's interesting. Maybe I got really lucky there, because like when I saw that Sendai Girls tag, that was excellent. Did you see that?
Yes.
So this is
Yeah.
the exact kind of emotion that I want from a match. So maybe I'm lucky and I've already found my replacement in Meiko Satomura. I was thinking after watching that. So
Yeah. Oh, that's a horrible trick question. Oh, yeah, look, it's a natural thing in wrestling and in life that, these things all come to an end, and we have to kind of enjoy the moments like as we get them. But yeah, it'll take time. It'll take time, and maybe doing things like this, doing things like you podcast, like you podcast and have a newsletter. That sort of thing is the sort of thing that keeps you kind of part of everything in a way, keeps you connected while you're in that kind of lull, and then until something else kind of comes around. That's kind of generally how I can think about it through the gears as well. So yeah, I think this is probably healthy to have that week away. I absolutely, I've had times where I don't want to see a ring. I don't want to see a ring on my TV, let alone an arena. So yeah, but we should, should we have a look at what was a beautiful ending for Tam's career?
Yeah, and it's in the end it was really perfect for me. Like, at first I was a bit sad that Sayaka Kurara didn't use her wish to get Tam back. She used the wish on a red belt shot instead. At first I was kind of mad about that and kind of sad, but in the after thinking about it for a while, I think that was absolutely the right decision, because that moment should have just stayed like that. It was perfect. That last shot of them together at the top of the ramp, you know what I mean?
It was just, do you know, there's this overusage of wrestling of the word cinema, right? And to me, what the word actually means is not what whatever people say it is, but the way that people use it is it's artistic. No, what they're looking for is something that kind of cascades outside of wrestling. And this sort of presentation is exactly what that actually should mean, and not what it's generally used for, because you've got this moment that actually appears cinematic. It's like the end of this film, and you've got the feathers falling, and then Tam points up to the sky, and Sayers just completely destroyed, in absolute tears, just wrapped around each other, and then it goes black, and it's amazing because it's kind of silent once because they were so loud, the crowd, as they were going up the ramp. And then they get to the top, and then they're just kind of waiting to see what happens. And they go silent. And then when it goes black, you hear the applause, like it was the end of a play sort of thing. In a good way. It was just kind of this recognition of this is over, but that was incredible. And yeah, I just thought that was one of the, if you were going to pick a moment to end your career on, and a way to do it, as well as, trying to pass the torch to somebody as well to, lead the promotion after. I don't think you could have picked a better one. I think, I agree with you. I think it was perfect.
Yeah, that's true. It was kind of funny, to see some of the reception it got. If you listen to Dave Meltzer, for example, talk about it, he was really blown away, that wrestling could be this, because I guess what he always thought of as cinema, it was the more the WWE schlock kind of style, kind of stuff. But
and the thing is, it's the sort of focus on when they say cinema, these kind of storylines and stuff. And the thing, when you come in and you don't watch a huge amount of, a promotion, or you don't know that story inside out, it kind of can shake you, or it's so vastly different. But I always think about it, and I think, for us, for someone like me, it's an incredible production. I can see that. But if you're invested in this thing, it's more for you. These shows, when you get to these huge culminating matches, they're great to watch as an outsider, but they're not really for people like me, if you understand what I mean. They're for people like you. They're for people that have invested in that story for so long, who have been waiting for this culminating moment, and would love to see it end in the best of ways. And that's who they're delivering for me. And that's what I thought was the most special. And you had something, it felt unique. It didn't feel like what you'd see, This wasn't an end of a WrestleMania or something with all the fireworks going off and like that. No, it was something that it fit the story, it fit the match, it fit the performers, and it fit Stardom. And it felt so vastly different, which is good, because the more things feel different, the better to me. And it was just such a beautiful image, and it was shot so beautifully as well. They did a great job of that in terms of presentation. I thought the overall show presentation wise was very, very good in terms of, cameras and the staging and the entrancing. And, that felt different. It didn't feel as, you watched the WrestleMania, it felt really weird because I watched this kind of back to back with WrestleMania in a way, which is a weird thing to do, I know, but needs a must sometimes. And you get this kind of very choreographed, kind of cold, it's just plastic feeling from like the big WrestleMania entrances now. And then you get something like this where things feel more natural. They feel like they're more invigorated around the characters. And it really is quite jarring when you put the two side by side.
That's true. And to me, it's just like really like just true, genuine emotion and feeling. Like in a way that a movie or something couldn't even do really. Like that's the special thing about wrestling for me. Is this kind of emotion that it can bring, because like that's why I wouldn't even call it like cinema, because like cinema in a way is also just like acted. And this was more than like acting, I think. This was just genuine, like
you can feel the relationships between the wrestlers as well and what they've gone through, and I think that's what resonates with you. So when you have the end of that match and they kind of fall to the side, and then eventually when Saya is able to start talking and she's kind of leaning back on her knees and Tam's still kind of laid out on the floor, and you can just feel that, like you feel all that emotion in that moment, and it just it stops you. It's that is where it is different from a film or a play or anything that's kind of predetermined where you're playing something, because this is their careers, this is them as people as well as wrestlers.
I haven't yet like watched it back. I've only watched it once. But like, what did you think about the match, like in general? It was like generally it's very well regarded. Like it got a very good rating from like Meltzer and stuff. Is that your kind of style? Did you get into that, or what did you think about it?
What I thought was interesting is if you were just watching, thinking like if you're adjusting just from a match capacity, if you took all the emotion of the entire thing out of it, there's probably a match on the show you probably thought was better. Yeah. But you can't take the emotion out of it, because it's about the emotion, it's about the build, it's about everything that's happened in that. And you can feel that from the moment it starts, I thought the whole thing starts from literally the entrances, the video and then the entrances. And they just felt like, this is the weirdest analogy, so stick with me, all right? But I went to Eurovision a couple of years ago, and I was stunned watching how they changed the staging round, how they did everything, how the presentation was. And it was so vastly different, but it was so incredible that it like left an impression of me of going, we kind of undervalue like how good this is. And I felt like a similar feeling watching the entrances, and particularly Saya's actually. So it was like, it just had this vibrancy, this energy to it that matched the character so well, and the way it was shot, that it literally set the mood. And then you can feel that tension at the start of the match, and you can feel it straight away. Everybody knows what's on the line. Everyone can feel it. Everyone's invested. There's like, and it rises. And what I think they did a really good job of is building the match up. So, this wasn't, Suri and Mayu Iwatani where it kind of went 100 miles an hour from the start. This was something that really built. So when you got to those kind of final moments, like, and I think, you could feel the crowd really come into it after the kind of, what did I write on here? When they were kind of out on the apron, that's when the crowd really kind of started to lift up, and when it went out to the outside. And then once they got back into the ring, it was like you had the bridging Germans and that sort of thing. And it was kind of like you could feel it every single pin attempt, the nervousness, the energy, the excitement, all mixed into one. And then when they finally got to the end and, the referee pauses before that third count, and That's that moment where you know it's over. And, I know the big criticism for that because, the referee shouldn't pause. But in terms of like a moment, you feel it. And then everything else after that, I thought it was a phenomenal match. And I thought it was wrestled the right way, which sounds ridiculous. But what I mean by that is it was wrestled to the moment, not to what we can do.
Yeah. No, that's true. And it's also like the one spot that stuck with me a lot is when Saya lifts Tam up before the free count, right? Usually that's like a spot in wrestling that I hate, usually. Like, unless maybe in a real squash match, I think that's one of the dumbest spots in wrestling for me. But in this case, it wasn't because like she was sure that she's gonna win, and that's why she lifted Tam up. It was more like she didn't want to beat her yet,
Yeah, but it gave it
like in an emotional kind of way, not in a like overconfident kind of way, but in an
it wasn't like I'm gonna make you look like a fool. It's like it wasn't like that. Yeah, it wasn't a squash because that's what you do in a squash, right? You pick them up again. And, it wasn't like that at all.
Yeah,
and it gives it that sense of finality. There was a real bit of finality in that. That's what that did.
Yeah,
in a different way to what it would normally.
And also like beating her with the whole move in the end was also like really poetic, I guess. It was really sweet.
Yeah, because
I hope she keeps using that move too.
I think so. That's a passing of the torch thing. It used to be a thing to pass a move on from one generation to another. And that's what that felt like for sure. So
you said earlier that maybe if you took the emotions out, if you took the if you just look at the strictly technical wrestling, you said you wouldn't say it was the best match on the show. Maybe what do you think was the best one then? From that aspect, like strictly.
Okay, so I don't know if I'd argue that this one was the one I'm going to talk about was the best match, but I could see how people would look at it potentially like that. And it was so I thought, so it's a Suri and Mayu Iwatani match, which I think was really helped. So for someone who's coming in from the outside, I thought it was really helped by, I don't watch a lot of English commentary, let's be honest. I always say I watch NOAH generally with Japanese commentary, I watch New Japan with Japanese commentary. But I thought Walker Stewart was really, really helpful in kind of setting the stage, particularly for this one. I thought he was great throughout. I think he reminds me, there's an English football, he's an Irish football commentator called Conor McNamara, who feels like he's so much older. Yeah, okay. He feels so much older than he is. But when you see him, he's actually quite young for his voice. And Walker's very similar. They feel like they have so much kind of experience and like heartwarmingness in their voice that's far more of an older age than theirs. But I thought he did a really good job, especially with this one, because he set it up, Suri's not been anywhere near, the world title, hasn't been near any other belt for the last year and a half, and really kind of set up the stage for her to triumph in this one. And I just felt like it had energy from the very start. There's a drop kick into the corner quite early on and a tope, and then this flurry of forearms and then the kicks. And Suri's kicks are just they just sound like complete gunshots. They're just so hard. It's just like bang, 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 and into submissions and the moonsault. And I just thought the crowd were really wanting that Suri moment, I think, as well. It's like, I think they wanted, they enjoyed both of them, but you could feel every time she kind of got onto the offense, like that that kind of crowd pickup. And then when it kind of got to the end, it's hard because, they had quite a serious botch from the corner. But what I did like with that was Mayu was kind of straight back up, actually, and we're not going to just lean on it. It's like, oh shit, this happened. I'm going to go straight back up there, and we're just going to get on with it. It was literally, straight back up, straight away, moonsault, let's get on with it. And then, the only other thing with that is the finish. I felt the finish just kind of missed the height of the energy by very, very slightly. But that's like a minor criticism. It's not a major thing. But I just thought that match had so much energy. And just kind of carried it, you could tell the crowd wanted it for Suri. And obviously it marked quite a pivotal moment with it being Iwatani's kind of last match in Stardom as well.
Yeah. And yeah, Walker's crazy. Like he's like 22, right? 23 maybe.
Yeah, he's so young, and
Insane.
and to come into a company as well, especially where you don't commentate every week.
Hmm.
You're coming in doing however many shows it is a year. It's not very many, and to be able to not just commentate, but able to explain things to people that might be coming in and watching their first Stardom show or however, and literally go through everything and be able to call the moves and everything else. He's phenomenal, and I know he gets some praise, but he doesn't get anywhere near as much praise as he should for being able to do that in the way he does.
No, that's very true, and he's right about the Shuri thing, because that's like a thing that was a really like what you call it, a Rossiism maybe, was like
Right.
a real negative of his booking was the champion. Like he would elevate someone to the red belt level and have them have a great title run. And as soon as they lose that title, they would just be nothing. They would drop down super hard in the card, right? So it happened with Utami Hayashida and with Shuri both, that after they lost the red belt, they just did kind of nothing for like the next 2 years, which is kind of insane because they are insanely talented wrestlers. And to just do nothing with them ever again after taking the title off them is kind of, it's not great.
Damaging. It's damaging. It tells your audience. It tells your audience that the promotion doesn't care about them. That's what it does. Every promotion you ever see that in. So yeah, I guess that's why you could hear the crowd so much in this one, that they recognised that she was being moved back up into that position, and it was interesting that when she got a visitor after the match, she was still the one getting support. So
right.
That's we'll see how she goes. But yeah, I thought she was. I enjoyed watching her. She fits right into my kind of style of pro wrestler in general. Very hard hitting. Kind of quick. Speed changes speed. I always say this because it's funny, but like what people think, kind of what you look for in a pro wrestler might be actually different from what it generally is. But for me, it's like I love people that can mix up their speed. So, Kenny Omega is fantastic at Shingo Takagi, wrestlers like that who don't just have kind of one speed, but can change it and adapt. And then they're hard hitting and they have the power moves and that, and the as well. And her knees, her kicks, all that sort of stuff. That's generally my type of wrestler. So, I very much enjoyed that match. What about you, Tim? What's your favorite match outside of the main event?
Oh, I want to. It's probably the same one. I wanted to talk. I wanted to talk about the match a little more. I have maybe a bit of a hot take about that. Like thinking about it from afar, like a week later. But in the moment, it probably was Mayu and Shuri too. I wrote this in my piece as well. But I think it's good to bring it up again because it's like this match really reminded me of like some old HEW matches in a way. Because like I've literally covered last week with Seth the Akira Okuto vs Shinobu Kandori match on this podcast, and this is like a prime example because it's a really similar build-up as well, because Shuri used to be the shoot fighter, right, just like Kandori, and Mayu is like this incredibly great overall talent, like Hokuto was, and it's not like they are principally different matches, because like the Hokuto match had a lot of blood and crowd brawling and stuff like that. The Shuri match had none of that, but like what makes both these matches great for me is like just the glue that kept it together, like the work in between when Mayu was selling in these like crazy submission holds and was like barely alive at some points. And what was happening between these crazy bombs they were throwing at each other is what make these kind of matches great for me, more so than the crazy spots themselves. I kind of agree with you that maybe the first Emerald Frozen should have been enough. I don't think the botch detracted from the match for me at all, because it just showed the exhaustion more and the great sacrifice they took in the match. I didn't really see it as much as a botch as it probably was, actually. So
I think they did a really good job of covering it. Like Mayu getting straight back
Right.
up and into that moonsault was like just
that was brilliant.
really quick, clever thinking. And yeah, I think they emoted really well. I think that's just why these two matches for me were the ones that got the crowd involved so much more than anything else. And it was like, yeah, right. So everything, little thing that they do in between made people in that arena care. And it's harder when you're in a massive arena, especially because, you know, the noise doesn't hold as well. But yeah, they did so much good work in that. And it really felt like at times where it could go either way. And I thought it was really nice to see Mayu kind of really endorse Suri after the match as well, knowing that she was going elsewhere. But afterwards we knew, but she knew at the time she was going elsewhere and really tried to kind of make that moment important for her. What I do like about STARDOM, I want to say though, is in the way that this card sets out, is not only does it build like a traditional Japanese card, you know, where you have your opening and your tags and then into your singles, and it helps, you know, with the pacing especially. But I really like how performers were kind of given time on the microphone and with each other post the matches. And I was thinking about it. I think it's not something that you generally see, even like, you know, thinking about Tokyo Dome and New Japan outside the winner, you know, but in this way you get to feel the emotions of both performers. You get to feel kind of what's the next chapter of their story together in that regard. And then also it gives the crowd kind of more time to kind of to rest, to kind of get their energy back before the next match. And, you know, in the opposite way to showing 20 infomercials for whatever partnerships you've got now, it's not the same. That's not the same type of thing. We don't need 25-minute, you know, WWE style breaks. But I thought, you know, it just really helps with building your kind of relationship with each wrestler and feeling those moments and making them resonate. You know, we always talk about how you can make something feel important and resonate. And I thought this was a really good example of that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And in a way that has kind of ruined me for the rest of wrestling, I want to say. Because like I started to hate these just normal in-ring promo segments where people are just going out there in their street clothes and either do like a monologue into the camera or talk to each other about something. Because when you watch like STARDOM, how STARDOM does it, like always doing it after a match and making it about the match, I just feel like the performers put so much more, or like the emotions flow so much more freely when the performers are like full of adrenaline after they've just gone through a big war and are like completely done and out of breath. And I think it conveys emotion a lot better and tells stories a lot better than these like completely cold segments where two people are just standing across of each other and then talk to each other about like, I don't know, some stupid shit. I started to hate these promo segments just because like the way I think STARDOM does is so much better in every aspect.
I kind of get that because, as you know, it's the same with backstage comments, you know, that you see in NOAH and in New Japan and other China Japanese promotions. And then, yeah, you get these very choreographed feelings sometimes in ring segments on American TV. And I find myself, you know, sometimes I'll go through phases of just not wanting to watch American style TV, like wrestling promos, especially when they're just there to either, you know, go into work shoot stuff and shock value and all that stuff. I have no interest in that anymore as I've gotten older because, yeah, I really enjoy the style and the little clues and the interactions between people and backstage comments and that far, far more. So, yeah, I'm probably falling into that one as well.
Right. I wanted to harken back to something you said earlier as well about the whole production of the show. I think it was like a pretty big step. Like, this is not the usual production you get. This was a pretty big, like, I guess, experiment for them, I would call it. Because you also had like, I'm surprised that STARDOM did a lot of these things before New Japan introduced them, like Bushiroad generally. I don't know if they start like experimenting something in STARDOM first and then bring it to New Japan or what the direction is here, but like the crazy 8K cameras they had for the entrances and stuff, that's like what NOAH does too. that's never been there before. Like even in Stardom, that was all like premiered on this show, I guess. So
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. It's a good thing if you can, you have this big event in this huge arena where all the eyes on you. The fact that they didn't just go with their standard production and they look at something like NOAH, who, I think, since COVID, I think NOAH, my personal opinion is NOAH's had the best production of anybody, more globally, in terms of the way they shoot and the entrances and the staging. So if you can replicate that but find it in your own way, then it's a step up. So, the way people view your promotion, unfortunately, sometimes it's not always about the characters, the wrestlers, or the in-ring work. It's a lot of time it is about presentation. So you do have to match that when it comes to these big shows.
No, that's true. Absolutely. That was a decision well made by them, I think.
Yeah, it looked phenomenal. The entrances especially, and, the way everything played out, I think it just added to the match. It gave, a really good, strong ground that everything felt important. Everything felt like it was monumental. And I think that helped with the overall feel of the show.
No, it's true. I agree. So I wanted to highlight one more match before we maybe go down the card match by match. I think we can do the card pretty quickly, but I wanted to talk about the Mei Seira and Suzuki match a bit more in depth, because like thinking back at the show, I always kind of like try to think a week or two later, which match do I actually remember the best, and which match left the most lasting impression on me, I guess. And obviously that's the main event. That's always going to be the main event probably for the rest of my life. But this Suzuki Mei Seira match really did a great job of staying in my memory, first and foremost, about the show after everything with Tom and Saya. I just thought the way they fought, I thought the way Mei Seira sold in this match was something I've rarely ever seen before. Like it was fantastic. I think just the way she was completely like out of it. Like she didn't even really know what was going on as soon as she started bleeding from the head, and it slowed the match down a lot, which I saw as like a criticism, I guess, in here and there of people talking about the match. But I think it worked wonderfully for like the pacing of the match. Like when Mei first started bleeding and like couldn't really do anything, and Suzu was just beating on her for a while. That just left a really great impression with me. Like just the way they sold, and obviously it was a greatly executed match as well, with like a ton of great moves. Like that top rope German was so insane. What did you think about that one?
Do you know what the most interesting thing about that match for me was when you think about stips like no DQ, is you kind of are used to weapons and everything being used all the way through. We had plenty of weapons at the start. I always think about the chair shot of the head, and the head comes through. The chair comes off and the head comes through, and it's like Jesus. But when you look at those kind of last few minutes, everything's kind of in the ring, and there isn't really any weapons involved. It's just these performers and trying to one up each other with kind of these different moves and reflecting on the damage that's been done by everything on the outside. And I thought that was such a different kind of structure than what we're used to when we think of stipulations like that. That I was enthralled by that, because I'm just so not used to seeing it. And that's when really, again, it's like, that was like, it felt in a way with the crowd, it felt like a 2.5 match to me. When we got to that bit where it was all in the ring, that's when like everything, the noise really, really picked up. And the finishing exchanges were just they were fantastic. It was you're right, really well executed.
Right, and that's very true. And I think it's not just the weapons. It's just there was no interference or anything. No, like nothing. That. There was nothing.
Yeah, it was like a clean. It was a very clean end.
Right, Suzu has just brought in like these 2 new people from the outside to form her new stable, and you'd think that they would just probably run in there and kick the shit out of Mei constantly because it's no DQ. But it was a real, like, they kept it real, just one-on-one action. We we beat each other with some chairs at the start, but then we're just gonna keep it relatively clean for a no DQ match. And
I think it
I think it fits
makes
perfectly for.
Susie. Sorry.
It fit perfectly for the match itself and for like the relationship between them, I guess, because they've been like a tag team and best friends for such a long time that it would have probably just felt so much more cheaper if there was like constant interference and then Suzu cheating on stuff. I think it was a perfect decision for them to just keep it as a real 1v1 affair with just the stronger person winning in the end and not the more cheating person or whatever, you know.
I think it makes Suzu, you know, more of a threat going forward as well, because now she has these additional people for her new group, but also, you know, you can see that she can do this without them. So
Right.
that's maybe a lesson for American wrestling this year. But it's, if you have to, that person at the top is being a complete threat at the top is so much more valuable than when you add, you know, the kind of the backup in the group that's going to do the kind of interference spots. So, I was surprised by that as well. That I'd seen it. She'd recently formed. I write these things sometimes. So I seen that she formed a group. So I did expect there, when you see the no DQ stip, for there to be more interference, and when there wasn't, that was a pleasant surprise. But that adds to how you feel about the match for sure.
Right. So, I guess going through the card, the most interesting things about it probably are also the exits from the company. Of course, we had Thekla losing to Sayaka Kurara in the second match on the card. I guess the third one, if you count the pre-show Rumble, which was a fine match. I thought Sayaka Kurara is just doing well, as inexperienced as she is. She has a certain quality to her that just connects to the audience very well. When I saw her live in Japan, she was just, it was phenomenal how well she just connected to the crowd and how quickly everyone got behind her. I was at the Korakuen Hall where she had a semi-main event singles match, and the Korakuen Hall was going crazy for her. I didn't believe it how good she connected with the crowd in that one, and I think she's gonna do well as like Tom's.
You say replacement or
replacement? Successor, maybe? I guess.
Successor, that's probably a better word.
Yeah, she's. I think she's been put in that situation. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Saya is more like Tom's direct successor, but Sayaka, confusing names. Maybe Kurara is better. Kurara has been put in that position as well in the more distant future, I guess. So Thekla was fired after the match because it wouldn't have. I don't know if you know that about Thekla, but she was she called herself the idol killer, I think, because like Cosmic Angels are like the idol group, you know. So she was. I always compare it to do you remember when Frankie Kazarian was the elite hunter in AEW?
The failed elite hunter.
And he was just geeked out constantly. He just got squashed by Gallows and shit like that. That's kind of what Thekla was in Stardom. She was like the idol hunter, idol killer, and she just always lost when she faced any of the Cosmic Angels, which was kind of funny. But so the stip was, if Thekla lost, she had to join the Cosmic Angels. If Thekla won, she got to fight Taro Okada, who is the booker. So she lost, and obviously, to stay with the example, that would have been if Frankie Kazarian had to join the elite at that point, which, obviously
that's one way. That's one way of getting out of a stip, isn't it? I'm going to get myself fired because I don't want to join that group.
Right. I thought it was done quite cleverly. I think they booked themselves into a corner of bad stuff, and they kind of got out of it as clean as you could have wished for, with putting Kurara over and not having to do the match with Okada, but still kind of having Thekla beat up Okada a little. So I think they did that as well as they possibly could for the spot they were in, by their own fault, I guess.
Why do you think that there is a number, I see it more online, but why do you think there's so many people that don't seem to rate Thekla?
I honestly, I do this every episode now, I think, where I just get mad at like the internet community, or like, you know what I mean? But I think people are just kind of stubborn in a way, where they see a person or a wrestler maybe have a bad day at some point and fuck up a big match, and they just form their opinion on them, being that like this wrestler fucked up here and I hated that match, and that's why I'm never gonna give them a chance again. And I think Thekla fell into that a little bit. She had like one really bad match at one point, and I think people really hated her since then. She also, I think she was really impressive and really great when she came in. And then she got injured quite badly, I think her wrist. And she had time off for like almost a year, I think, in 2022. And when she came back, she was never quite as like maybe dynamic. But she's still a good personality and a good worker. And I think she doesn't deserve the hate she gets at all. I think when she goes to the US, she's going to be a better worker than most people there. So I don't know why people are so hard on her. I think it's also a bit people just memeing and trying to one-up each other with like the hate. I guess it's really weird.
That does happen. We don't let people grow either these days. We don't let them grow and change and work on things and figure things out and make mistakes. And I think we see so much of people's development, very early on in a way that we wouldn't have done 10, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And Thekla maybe also has like, maybe she has a certain energy to her that is a bit overbearing, and I can see why people are a bit put off by that. But I mean, she's a pro wrestler. That's kind of what she has to do. I don't get it really. Where do you think she's going to end up?
So it's a funny one because people on AEW believe she's going there. People in Japan that we spoke to before it got announced that she was going thought she was going to WWE. So, but we see this quite often with people that come out of Japan. We saw this with Kevin Knight. We saw it with Jay White. That not necessarily the destination where people think you're going to go when you leave, or you may have spoken about, ends up where you are. So I think, it's pretty open. I think there'd be opportunities in either company for her. And so, I'm not sure. But it's just how you convert that, and, getting the right spots and being able to go from there. But it's hard, these days, especially for someone like STARDOM. It's hard and for New Japan as well, for these not to end up like stepping stone companies. And that's probably the big challenge for both going forward.
Right. Yeah. I think she would fit better in AEW, is my prediction. But I can tell, like, she's really, really close with Julia, I think. Like, just judging from their STARDOM careers, they've always been intertwined with each other and tagged with each other and been in the same stable, been on the same tag team. So I could see how Julia is gonna get her into like NXT maybe or something. But I think her character, it's quite like an edgy, more raw character, I'd say. And it's not at all fitting to like the style of this NXT stuff. It would fit better in AEW, I think. Maybe she would have a good place in Ring of Honor as well.
It'll be interesting to see kind of where she ends up and what role she kind of gets, because that's a big thing as well. It's just wherever you go, you need to be established quite early and build from there. It's the game of going in at the ground up doesn't really work so much anymore, whether it be NXT or whether it be AEW Ring of Honor. So just get the right presentation. But the big thing for her is that she's got two companies after her, and that's a good position to be in. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So moving on, Pre-Show Rumble was won by Hanako. This is for me like a theme of the show. The theme is kind of the rebuilding, the end of an era. Many people leaving, many people, and like just the general phase of, what do you call it, the landscape of STARDOM like changing completely. And you need to push new people for sure. And this Hanako win. Did you watch the Rumble?
Yeah, I watched the Rumble as well. I watched the entire show from beginning to end.
Okay.
All it was a long one, but I watched it in 2 parts. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I didn't actually watch the whole Rumble myself. I tuned in like halfway through, to be honest. But it's like those pre-show Rumbles are usually not worth spending much time on. To
They're
be
never
honest.
anything to write home about. The stuff you stick on
No.
in the background and just leave on.
Yeah, that's right. So I think Hanako is like someone they want to push hard now, because like I think her stable is pretty much done. Like her stable is now 3 people, I think, with 2 of them being like, I think Rian has not had a single win yet in Stardom, and Waka is like notoriously one of the most, what do you call it, most losingest jobbers, I guess, in the whole Stardom roster. And so it's just those 3, and Hanako really has to like, I'm expecting the unit to dissolve at any point now. And Hanako getting this white belt match is a big move in the right direction, I think, for the rebuilding of the promotion.
I think there's good signs of that they have plans for things. You know, it's not like, oh, we're losing all these people, we don't know what to do. It feels like everything's kind of in motion already.
Right. So for the first match on the card, there was it was Hina fighting against Rana Yagami for the Future of Stardom title, with Hina winning in the end. I think this match showed a lot of progression for both of them. Rana has been progressing really fast too. I think she had a pre-show match, a singles match against Sayaka Kurara on the Dream Queendom show in December, which I probably liked even better when it comes to like big pay-per-view singles matches she had. But in this one, the most notable thing for me was actually the progress Hina is making, because Hina is usually like a really stoic character. She doesn't emote much. She's like the one in the family. She has 2 sisters in Stardom, Hanan and Rina, and Hina has always been the stoic one who doesn't like. She's not as happy and outgoing as Hanan, and she's not as bratty and mean as Rina, I guess. But in this match, she started showing like real emotions when Rana put her in some of these submission holds, and she was scrambling towards the ropes. I think she's doing great progress in that direction as well. And she retained the Future title in the end against Rana, who is her stablemate. So, what did you think about that one?
These are the ones where it's kind of harder when you come in to watch a promotion, because you don't see as much of that progress in the meantime. So for me, it's like, it's one of them where you can see, you know, they're still developing and they're still working, but I don't really have a basis of what she did previously in terms of her progression, other than, you know, reading what you write kind of every 2 weeks. So but yeah, I think it shows promise. I think that's where I'd live at the moment. She shows promise, and we'll see where she goes from here. All
right. Yeah, no, there's really not that much to say about this one. Next, we had the 6-man match, which was Meiko Satomura's penultimate career match, and the last one she'd ever have in Stardom. For this one, like the most outstanding thing for me was the exchange between Aya Sakura and Meiko Satomura in the end, which is another like sign of like really putting these rookies up in big spots and getting them elevated, I guess, in the best way possible. Meiko pinned her in the end, and I think this match was a lot of fun in general. Like, you have Mika Ibata and Saori Yano going at it, which is always like they always beat the shit out of each other. They have been feuding for like I don't even know how long, but in Stardom the feud has been playing out for the last 2 years, I guess, and it's always fun when they are in there. Another notable thing maybe about it is Natsupoi, who has been really working very well to begin the match, I thought. And at some point, she just started like mostly sitting on the outside, holding her ankle and hobbling around whenever she was in the ring. So that's not a good sign. She had the ankle injury for a while now, and it was when she was working the first half of the match, I was confident that it was healed up well, but I guess she re-injured it, re-aggravated the injury, which sucks a lot. But she still doesn't take time off. She's one of those wrestlers who just won't take time off unless you force her to, I guess. Which
that's kind of the hard
badly.
bit of it's one of the hard bits of Japanese wrestling, especially that the tendency is that you work through, and you see that across wrestling, but especially in Japan, like you just work through, and we saw that with Momo Watanabe trying to work through her ankle injury and not being able to. And that's always the worry when people keep working on something that isn't quite right, because you either do further damage to that, or you can damage the opposite limb on the other side or muscle on the other side because you're overcompensating. So do you know what I think what struck out to me as well was that with Maiko is it feels like it's too early for her to retire. Because you watched away, and they did exactly what they should have done with this, because the whole idea, if you're going to do a retirement tour, is trying to elevate as many people as you can off the back of it. So the structure-wise, it worked, but you watch her level and her standard still, and you think you could go for many, many more years. Yeah,
that's absolutely true. Yeah, I think Ariel said it on our podcast that way too many women retire too early and way too many men retire too late.
Yeah, and absolutely.
That's another 2 cases on this show, I guess. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And when you look at it, like in the Sendai Girls match, right, too, and then the tag match, when she was going at it with Aja Kong, who has been wrestling for way longer even than Meiko, and she's still going at it and still doing stuff like, and Aja is still great actually. Like, I don't know what's going on like in her private life that she decided to retire this early, but there's no way she would have to. Judging by her form, by her in-ring form. It's also like really sad because she was just like not doing anything for like 2 years while being somewhere locked in a warehouse. So we lost a lot of time from Meiko's final stretch of her career. And that's
what's so frustrating about having this, this kind of global war going on, is that we're locking people up to doing bare minimum. And that's what annoys me, looking forward, that I worry about, is that you've got some of these most incredible wrestlers in the world and they're not doing very much for huge amounts of their career now, so they lose out, and ultimately we lose out from not seeing them as well. So yeah, that's why protecting the landscape, even as it is feels kind of vital right now. But yeah, I guess you could look at it and say that at least she goes out at the top of her form. You look at especially some of these male wrestlers that are literally falling to pieces by the time they retire, and they're able to draw still because of past glories sort of thing, but they don't go out feeling like what you remember them to be. So
yeah, that's true. I accidentally skipped over a match. We also had Yumi Kohata, another older legend of Joshi wrestling, going up against the young Rina, Hina's sister. And I mean, this was kind of a nothing match to me. I didn't really think that great about it. I mean, it was kind of obvious what was going to happen from the start. That's just how these legend matches go a lot of the time. Unfortunately, it's just like very immobile veterans giving nothing to the young guys and winning in the end. So that's kind of what this was. She bumped a bit more than I even expected, but
they're just frustrating. They're just frustrating every time you see them. And I know that the system, in general in Japan is, it's around seniority, even more so than what you see in the US. But
right.
Yeah, never enjoyable, never get anything out of it. Don't think the talent get anything out of it. Don't really understand why no one's looked to develop and move it on else. But I do, because it's the cultural sense. But yeah, I don't see a benefit for anybody.
No, not really. I figured they just put her on the card to get like an HEW legend on there. That's the only reason I can think of for like a historic Joshi show. They felt the need to get one of them. I guess. Wasn't great. Right, let's move on to the Sendai Girls World Championship match, where Chihiro Hashimoto came into the promotion to fight Maika. They had a bit of a feud going on where like Maika was very condescending, actually, like teasing Chihiro Hashimoto that her own promotion could never put on a show as big as this and could never attract as many people as Stardom does. So Chihiro came in and basically beat her up and pinned her. So maybe Maika had it coming, I don't know. But I think it was a fine match. It wasn't like anything spectacularly blow away, but obviously it's going to be great when these two go against each other. So it was pretty much perfectly what I expected going in. Nothing more and nothing less, which is, yeah, very good still, because I expected very good. So that's what I got. What did you think about this one?
Yeah, very similar. For what was good standard. I liked the finish with her trying to escape the powerbomb and not being able to.
Oh yeah, that was brilliant.
That was really creative. But yeah, very much just I thought it was good standard. Nothing spectacular or anything else that felt out of the ordinary, but fit well into the story. Just a well-told match.
No, I agree. So another pretty interesting match was next on the card with the tag team titles. I don't know, maybe you've read from my preview or my review after it what was going on there. It was actually two teams from the same stable who started having like a falling out over the last month or two, when like Hanan started accusing Hazuki of being like this bully, this terrible person, this terrible trainer, because Hazuki is like a trainer in the dojo for like the Stardom rookies, and we've had a couple of Stardom rookies get hurt lately. Like actually a lot of them. It's really unlucky. I don't think Hazuki injured all of them, to be clear. But like we had Matoi getting injured. We had Ane getting injured. And we also saw Kyoka getting injured, the former Maya Fukuda. So Hanan started like saying that Hazuki was too harsh with the rookies in training and too much of a bully. And that's basically the premise for this match, was like a real... I figured it was a real life issue. I don't know why they would bring it up. As a kayfabe reason, I kind of struggled with this one to see where the lines are, actually. I don't know if you heard anything or know anything more about that than I do, but probably
I've not heard anything on that one, but it does remind me that Azawa was doing similar kind of story at the same time with Masa Kitamiya as well. Very similar, talking about the dojo and stuff. And so it's maybe not quite in the same way, but very similar theme.
Okay. Yeah, I struggle to find a reason, because Hazuki is like a beloved figure in Stardom. She is one who was always kind of underpushed compared to the level of popularity, I guess. She's always like a kind of gatekeeper kind of role, where she will never win any titles, except for the tag titles, but never any single title, and just be like every champion's best defense in their title reign, probably. So I don't know why they would, like, it's almost like slanderous, right, to put this kind of storyline to make someone look like a giant bully who's intentionally hurting people in the dojo. That's a pretty nasty thing. So them bringing that up was...
It's not an unusual story in Japanese media, especially at the moment. I think about things like the Netflix Sanctuary. It shows a lot of the kind of the things in dojos in sumo and how that works out, and with your seniors and things. So it's kind of topical, if in some other media as well. So, but yeah, it's a difficult thing to throw at somebody for sure.
It is, yeah. I think it's maybe, to me, there's maybe like a little bit of difference if it's like a shoot sport and pro wrestling, like in Sanctuary with the sumos, and like I don't know. It's a hard topic to get into, I guess, especially like outside of the culture. But it definitely made Husky into a heel, which But she did really well in this match. Like she played the heel expertly, I thought, throughout the match, like being very like she always just had this condescending smile on her face, like, and no matter how hard Hanan tried to hit her, she just no-sold everything and just was being this huge asshole to her. Until at one point she just started beating the shit out of her. But then she lost in the end. Like I think to her hubris a little bit, because she didn't take Hanan seriously at all. And then Hanan kind of got her with her finisher and pinned her. After that crazy muscle buster on the apron that Saya Iida gave to Koguma. And yeah, that was a crazy... I love the finish, actually. I love the finishing stretch. I think the match took a little while to really get going. But once it got there, it was excellent, I thought.
They took a while to get the crowd in as well, yeah. And then, that spot on the apron was the one that really kind of woke everything up. That was insane. But yeah, after that, I thought it was a good tag match. I didn't think it was a massively notable one outside of, the story of that. But the thing is, if you are going to do storylines like that, then it needs to be, that younger wrestler who's on that other side, the babyface that needs to come through. And they did that. So yeah, that's always the right thing to do in those sort of when you're telling those sort of stories. So.
Mm-hmm. No, that's true.
I did like the teddy bears with the glow sticks in the entrance as well. I got very distracted by that.
It's probably better if you looked at that. And were those on the Titantron?
It was like so like underneath the stage they had like there was like a bit of staging with like screens on, and there was these like teddy bears with like glow sticks, and I was completely like, oh, I like them.
They usually, especially for this team, for like Wingori, for Hanan and Saya Iida, they do like the silliest shit for the entrance all the time. The bear one was probably for the other team, for Koguma, because she's the bear person.
Yeah, I wrote Koguma, so Koguma teddy bears on my notes. But I was just like, I was just like, I want a teddy bear that has a little glow stick like that. That was this is the problem when you watch things afresh and you're like it's little things. I always laugh at little things like that. I do find it was cute.
Yeah, Koguma that's her whole gimmick, is basically being a bear, and she always does the bear dance. It was good that in this match she kept it serious, but in like on house shows she does those bear dances, and everyone joins in, and that was a fun storyline actually at the start of the year, where like Shuri is obviously this super serious shoot fighter, and she was basically fighting against the bear dance, and Shuri's like protege, the Rana Yagami, who fought in the first match, was basically forced to do the bear dance in the end because Koguma beat her, which was it was a fun storyline. Shuri was just breaking down crying because Rana was forced to do the bear dance. It was really funny. Yeah, but also like
be forced to do a bear dance at some point. That should be the thing. You lose a match, do a bear dance. I think that's a good what's the word? Like a good, not punishment, but a good forfeit. Lose match, do bear dance. Acceptable to me. Yeah.
It was a fun stipulation for sure. Yeah. what I was going to say is like STARDOM is on this really awful AI trip right now, with like these AI images, and like it's never worse than for Wingori entrances. That was the other tag team, like Hanan and Saya Iida. They have this like I don't know, Hanan is a flower, Saya Iida is like the gorilla. And they have these awful AI pictures usually in their entrance of like this green gorilla. It's absurd. I that's one thing I really dislike about STARDOM right now, is like the inflated usage of silly AI pictures for everything. It's really ugly. But yeah, moving on maybe. We actually only got the semi-main event left, and this one was Starlight Kid vs. Zumi, which is like a long-standing feud in STARDOM. I don't know, have you ever seen a match of theirs?
I've seen one of the high-speed matches previously, and I, in a way, coming into it when I watched this, I wish I hadn't.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know. I know that Starlight Kid is working through an injury, and that's never a good thing, especially when it's like, I think she has a shoulder injury. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's never a good injury to be working through. Look at the state of Sonata working with an upper arm injury
Oh, yeah.
for the last year. But I don't know. I really struggle with this one, and I don't know if it was because it was, it started much slower than the previous match, and it comes straight after that. But I don't know. I didn't really find myself attached to this one in any way, and I know they were fighting over the leadership of their faction, and as well as the but yeah, this one didn't connect with me, and I think it's hurt in a way because it came between two incredible matches.
Yeah, I was about to say
But
that.
yeah, but maybe if I watch it back on its own, after some time, then maybe I'll think stronger of it. But at the time, I don't know. I just really wasn't moved by this one very much at all, honestly.
No, I totally get that. I think, yeah, as you said, it was like in the worst, in the most difficult position it could have possibly been in, going between like the Mayushiri match and then Tamsaya. It was generally, that was like the theme of the show for me, was on my first watch on Sunday when I watched it live. I was kind of like, I felt that way about almost every match that you just said. That it just kind of, I felt no emotional attachment, really just all went by me. Because, yeah, I mean, obviously I was just so in my head about the main event that I couldn't really focus on anything else. So all my impressions basically came from my rewatches the next 2 days, when I put a couple of matches back on after like everything was done. And I think the match improved a lot for me on the second watch, or the third watch I gave it. Because, yeah, obviously, like you said, it was a bit slower than their other matches. Although they had one in 2023 also, which was an excellent match, I thought, which was similarly built, like more on submission actually than the high-flying, high-speed stuff. And this one was similar to that. I think they just have a real talent of selling in these submission holds, especially like the smaller wrestlers in STARDOM and the high-speed wrestlers. They have like, I don't know, a special knack for that, in my opinion. I had this discussion as well when you talked about the Natsupoi Starlight Kid match from Dream Queendom with Ariel. And yeah, I think that was displayed in this match. Not as great, I thought, as it was in the Natsupoi match. But it was in a similar ilk to me, where it was like this, yeah, these two high-speed wrestlers who are known to be like extremely agile and extremely, just flying around the ring, but doing a lot more ground-based work than you'd expect from them. And it's still working well, not as well as the Natsupoi match, as I said before. But I thought it was suitable. It was still very good to me. But I can totally understand if it didn't like blow you away. Sorry?
I've underplayed it in terms of like, it didn't move me that much, but we're still talking a very good match. It's because of what it was surrounded by. So yeah. I'm not looking at it going, this match was awful or a failure or anything like that. I just think I came in with slightly higher expectations than what I felt we got at the end, but that's not to downplay it as a good match either.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. No. All right. So
we reached the bottom of the card?
We basically did, yeah.
Awesome.
I don't know if I said everything that I plan on saying about the main event yet, but I don't think I can. It's hard to talk about it, kind of, you know what I mean, without losing my composure. So you'll
get more thoughts with time. The more time that goes on, the more you'll feel more comfortable talking about it, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But it's really like, yeah, it's really. It was the peak of my wrestling fandom, I think, in all these years. I haven't been like this super hardcore wrestling fan until like 2017, I guess. But I've been a wrestling fan on and off all my life. I've always had these phases, like as a kid I was a wrestling fan, then as a teen I was one shortly. And I always like dropped off again when wrestling was awful or something. But like basically wrestling has been a thing in my life since I can think back, I guess. I've always had like posters of wrestlers in my children's bedroom, I guess. But like, yeah, in all that time, I don't
What was
think
your first
anything has
poster,
ever.
Tim?
Sorry?
What was your first poster?
Bret Hart. I
Bret Hart?
Yes. I know that I had Bret Hart and Tatanka posters in my room as a child. But I mean, Bret Hart was my absolute favorite wrestler as a child. So I figured that was also my first poster. But those were the two, like Tatanka and Bret Hart for some reason. I don't know. But yeah, in all this time, I don't think anything has ever moved me as much. And I don't know if anything will ever move me again as much in pro wrestling. So I guess we've peaked. And I hope STARDOM hasn't peaked as a whole. I mean, this was a giant show. This was a giant success. And if it never goes that high again, you can't blame them because it's a tough situation, obviously. You have all these departures. We haven't really talked about all the departures. I don't know. Do you? Obviously, Mayu Iwatani is gone too. And Micah is... I guess we have talked about all of them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've kind of gone through them. I don't think we spoke about Iwatani kind of being in Marigold, but I think that's kind of well trodden, isn't it? I think everyone expected that to happen probably last year, really, and then because of her extra year, it was this year. So yeah, I don't think there's any surprise there, really. And I expect her to be booked to win absolutely everything, judging from everyone's responses. So
we'll see. I don't know.
And she'll face Io Sky as well. That I've got a couple of people who are very, very sure on that now. So yeah,
I can see it. Yeah, they have their big show soon. No, I think that was at the start of May last year. That would have been around this time if they.
WWE did something in Japan in July last year before their tour, I think. So I'm kind of looking around that time frame. That's what I can recall. But I think they'll fit it in wherever that becomes available. I'm sure that will happen. So,
did you hear about the comments Sonny made today?
No, I haven't read them. No.
Yeah, he essentially said that the three people who encouraged Rossi to leave and start a new promotion were Mayu Iwatani, Julia, and Tam Nakano. So that was kind of weird. It was kind of weird to bring it up in the first place. Apparently, it's totally out of... I don't know what to say. But exactly. Yeah, that would be a fun...
reputation, is it? So.
Yeah. But if that was true, that would be kind of funny. Like Tam, like pushing or convincing Rossi to leave, and then staying herself and becoming like a bigger star than she would have ever been with Rossi, and making the promotion into a bigger success than Rossi ever could, and possibly like taking over some part, some business role for Bushiroad or for STARDOM in the future, maybe. Maybe
Tam's road was the smart road. There you go.
Yeah, probably was.
It's interesting. It's a question for you, right? So I've had this one in my mind, thinking about it, watching what's happening with LIJ today. What do you think happens with Cosmic Angels now?
That's a good question. It's hard to say. I think Cosmic Angels is one of the bigger factions, so losing Tam is obviously a giant loss. She's the founder of the faction and the leader the entire time. But I think she has like Natsupoi is like the big, has always been like Tam's big. What do you say? Not significant other, but like kind of in a way, something like that. Like I think Natsupoi can take it over and keep it alive. I think that would be the plan if I had to guess. I think what STARDOM is doing right now is they've gotten rid of a lot of the old factions, or faction names at least, like from the Rossi days. Like Donna Del Mondo was dissolved at the end of 23. No, it was start of 24, I guess, technically. And Queen's Quest was dissolved last year, and the Oedo Tai was renamed to Hate. And all this stuff is happening. So they've slowly been getting rid of all the old factions. I think my theory is to get rid of all the Rossi IP. They want to just have a clean break and then have like their own names and stuff in Stardom for the future. So I could see Cosmic Angels going a similar way, actually, to maybe a rebrand. But I think Natsupoi and Soriano and like the core of the group, I think they're gonna stay together for sure. And also like Stars is falling apart right now, which Stars is like the last really old faction. And their leader was Mayu Iwatani, she's obviously gone. And like the 2 tag teams we talked about earlier that had a falling out were like the rest of the group. So I don't think Stars is gonna exist much longer anyway. So yeah. At the start, like initially thinking about the question, I would have said Cosmic Angels is staying around for sure. But as I'm talking through this, I'm less and less confident about it actually. So is it confirmed that LIJ is gonna be no more?
It's not been officially announced, but judging by the kind of comments that were made, but both Shingo and Tsuji made post Don Taki today, it looks like that's still likely happening. I probably want to catch up and see what Hiromu said, because as much as they're standing behind Tsuji and Shingo is the more powerful heavyweight, in a way it kind of feels more like Hiromu's faction than it does any of them, especially because he's one of he came in much earlier and he's literally like Naito's kind of prodigy in so many ways. So but yeah, it looks like that's probably coming to an end, which would be huge because they're such a huge merch killer, seller for New Japan. There isn't anything really to kind of replace that void. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that and how that works. And but then you have the opportunity. So again, they need to freshen up their factions. They need to do that for a long time, and we're now finally starting to see that with everything kind of into Hontai to then be hopefully split back up again as kind of new leaders kind of come along. But it's weird because the dissolving of chaos, no one really kind of batted an eyelid, but LIJ have been such a fundamental part as a faction, not just as wrestlers, but as a faction. This group of completely different wrestlers who all have like these unique capabilities and look and feel. So yeah, it's that one will probably hurt me more immediately than anything else, to be honest. I'm just I'm so used to just even the 8-man tag, the Road Tours. I'm just so used to that. So yeah, it's gonna be something to get used to for sure.
Right. And I mean, at least Naito isn't like fully retired yet, right? Well, do you have any theories where he's gone? What's his plan now?
There's a few. There's somebody he's working with who likes to tweet a lot that has got kind of us convinced that he's going to announce some sort of produce show, which is kind of the theme of this year, isn't it? And obviously there's always going to be suspicion around NOAH because they're the ones that could have the injection of cash, and Azawa is such a natural program doing stuff with Keno. We've done something similar before when we did the stuff back with NOAH and New Japan back in 21 into 22. So, and 23, stuff for 23 as well. So, yeah, I think produce shows are most likely. I think we do need to do the Tanahashi match one more time. They need to figure that one out. That was something they had in plans anyway. So, figure that one out, do that match somewhere, even if you don't want to do it on a New Japan stage yet, you don't want to go back to that. But yeah, it's interesting. And I think the best thing for him is just to have time. Because physically you can tell he doesn't want to be in the physical condition he is, and being out on a tour every single night, even if you're only, t-shirt night or whatever people moan about, but even then you're still working, you're still bumping, you still got to strain the eyes, which is a huge problem for Naito at the current time. So yeah, just some rest would actually be really good for him, I think.
I'm completely the same. Yeah, I hope he just takes a few months off now, and I'm most scared about his eyes, actually. Like the knees, I don't know. He can always do a standard worked match, I guess. Maybe not the Destino all the time, but the eyes thing is really scary to me because like that's hard to recover, right? When the eyes are gone, it's just over. Do you see him having any role or being brought back like for Tanahashi's retirement at the Tokyo Dome? Like just an appearance in some form.
He should be, and I think it would only be right. They've been interconnected at times during their careers as well.
Right.
And I know there's another name they're looking at trying to bring in for that's not Naito, which is not The Rock. God, J-Cast are doing such a good job of convincing people that's true. Fuck's sake. But yeah, it's not The Rock. But yeah, he should be. He should be part of that for sure.
It's not Muta, right? I'm not gonna guess. You don't have to answer that.
Oh no. No. So the name they're interested in is Nakamura. Probably not a surprise for anyone. Three Musketeers. So that's the guy they're looking at. But whether it happens or not, we'll see. So
that makes sense. I mean, why not? I wouldn't hate it. I mean, of course, WWE involvement is always bad, but like sending Nakamura over for one-off, who cares? I don't want that to be his last match, though. Is that what you mean? I was thinking just like an appearance, maybe a part of a 6-man or something.
No, last match is what I mean. Yeah, and it's not unusual for a last match to be against more of a veteran hand than it is, a young guy, I guess. So.
Yeah, nah, that's not my preferred opponent then. So, Trish, was there anything else on your mind about the All Star Grand Queendom show?
I think for me, it just reminds me that I need to watch more of this promotion. There's so many things that appeal to my style of wrestling and or my interest in wrestling, and I haven't put enough eyes on it for one reason or another. So yeah, that was the sentiment I was left with, and just thought it was a very good, well-produced show. Just really kind of showcase what they were all about. Lots of different styles of matches, lots of elevation and some really sentimental moments as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess my final thoughts are just, I don't know if it's just really settled in yet that Tom's gone now forever. I'm gonna miss her for sure. But it was a fantastic show, and it was a peak of a promotion. It was an end of an era in many ways, and a huge success for them. And I'm really glad about that because it's probably my favorite promotion in the world. So that's always good when they succeed. They've gone through a lot of rough times in the last year. So yeah, I feel good about it. I feel bad about it at the same time, obviously, because for me it's like the end of my favorite wrestler. So. But what can you do about it? It's gonna end at some point, right? Thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me. I know you're a very busy person, especially now with the newsletter and everything. Was lovely talking to you. Yeah, I'm not sure if the UK trip is gonna work out this year for me for like the Forbidden Door stuff, but I'm trying. Otherwise, I'm looking forward to meeting you again in Japan then at the latest.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me and for having a novice like me to discuss. Starting with you, and most importantly for me, thank you for everything that you do, because your way of conveying, Stardom and the other kind of Japanese women's promotions has really resonated with people, and I'm glad we can showcase that a little bit. So yeah, and yes, if not the UK, we'll be corralling more people into riding the Thunder Dolphin in Tokyo. Yeah, so thank you for having me join us on this evening.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Please, everyone, go to Spotify or wherever your podcast app is and look for the Trish Sarah Wrestling Podcast. It's an amazing podcast if you have never heard about it. And yeah, I think that's all for this episode. So Trish, bye, I guess.
Thanks, Tim. Goodbye.